guys. Welcome to Strong Female Lead. This is Trisha.
And I'm Tessa.
And hi.
Oh, hey.
Usually we say our names and then Strong Female Lead. So I didn't really know what to do right then.
No, it was perfect.
Which is why I'm describing it now. Describing my mind process.
No, it was great. It was great. How's your new year? It's our first recording anyway of 2020.
I know. My new year was fine. It's kind of boring. On New Year's Eve, I worked and then got a drink with a couple of coworkers and one of their significant others. And then New Year's Day, I went into work for maybe 3.5, 4 hours. I didn't feel good. I was actually sick. So then I went to bed early both of those nights. But I somehow missed the lines like down the street around the corner for the dispensaries. I don't know how I missed them. I guess people were like in line all over the city and I didn't see any of them. I don't know how that happened.
Oh, yeah. People are taking their weed day very seriously. And I was like, it'll be available tomorrow too, right? That was my whole thought. I was like, you could just do this any other day and you would still get weed or go through whatever means you've been getting weed
right
for one more day.
Right.
And then come back. It seems better than waiting in a 4-hour line.
It sounds ridiculous.
Get on
to
a
me.
wait list
Yeah.
to get texted to come back and buy weed.
So I agree with you, not to judge
Yeah.
people and not to sound like a shithead, but it seems like it was a little bit of amateur hour.
Yeah.
Those are the people that are waiting in line. No
Yeah.
one who smoked weed, had access,
Yeah.
was doing this prior
And-
to 1/1/2020, was waiting 4 hours in line for anything. They were already inside.
Exactly. I was like, okay. I feel like the idea of being on some sort of list about buying weed freaks me out still, so I will continue to get any drugs I need from the streets. I don't like the idea of the government knowing what I'm purchasing. They just want to charge me taxes, which is reasonable, but I don't want to be on your list.
I like that. So you're staying street level.
Yeah,
drugs.
or I'm buying from someone who bought from a dispensary.
You could definitely upgrade it to that, and then you'll at least know what you're getting for sure.
Well, I only buy edibles, so I'm pretty
Good.
confident in what I
Good.
get. Or weed oils. Like
nice.
those.
I didn't participate because, as you know, I broke up. I broke up with the Devil's Lettuce. We bid farewell. Mm-hmm. We said goodbye a while ago. Mm-hmm. But I do think of him from time to time and how the days were when we were together. And I wish everyone good luck and happiness on their journey in the new Chicago. Well, shit, what kind of movies are you excited about seeing and or not excited about seeing?
I don't have a lot of movies on my list right now. I am mostly trying to catch up on all the TV that I've been neglecting for all of 2019.
Neglecting.
I know. We watch so many movies with Strong Female Lead. I forget that I have so many shows that I had come back and I just completely forgot about, or just never got into while it was on. I just watched the first season of Watchmen, which was fantastic. Everyone recommended it, but I was like, no, Watchmen the movie was so scary and I really disliked it.
What's it about? I haven't seen it.
So it's a DC comic about a woman who it's the Minutemen. It's comic booky. It's a lot darker than some other comic books, especially it's DC, so it's always got that very dark human edge to it, which I think a lot of people resonate with.
Yes.
But yeah, this one takes place in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It starts out with the burning of Black Wall Street, which is a story that I keep asking the people know about.
Black Wall Street?
Black Wall Street.
Wow.
And it's
What's
shocking
that
to me that people don't know what that is. So Black people moved to a state where there was no slavery and set up a black section of Tulsa, Oklahoma, like you would see like a Asian neighborhood pop up in like any other city, like same.
Wait, is this real?
This is real.
Okay.
And then in 1921, the KKK came and they burned the city down and murdered almost all of the people who lived in that town.
Oh my God.
To destroy this beacon of hope for Black America. And
I'm one of those white people that don't know about Black Wall Street.
It's not just white people. People don't know. Like, this story has just been so successfully buried by people who, like, for, I don't know, I'm going to assume, like, in an effort to be polite and not talk about white terrorism. They're like,
what?
That exists? We just won't talk about that. That was our bad, but we're not going to talk about it. But this is like a topic that's been like buzzing around Hollywood for a while now, that like a lot of people have been writing scripts about Black Wall Street and the people therein who have become characters in these scripts. So I was excited to this is the first time I've seen it depicted. So I was very excited to see that. But stay tuned. The story is not the story. Keep an eye on the story. It would do you justice. You would do yourself justice to learn about it before you see it more on screen, because it's coming your way. These scripts, and I'm excited to see the movies and the other art that's coming out around that topic.
Is it covered in The Watchmen though?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the story of the Watchmen begins in the wake of the burning of Black Wall Street. And so, yeah, I loved that. I'm in the last episode right now. I had to like pry myself away to come and record. So that, and then I love The Magicians. I love it. It is like, I love all those sci-fi, I watch it on Netflix, that's why I'm a season behind, but it's about horny graduate students who are magicians who it's fantasy and reality. Yeah, you might like it. It's on Netflix. It's fantastic. Season 4 is great, and I love the way that I'm not going to give away anything that happens, but I love the way that they use, like when series go on for a while, they usually do like one musical episode just to be like, let's show the real range of our actors. Like, we've got actors who act and sing and dance. Yeah. And I usually hate that episode because I'm like, what's happening? Right. They don't do it justice like they do on, like Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is, in my opinion, the benchmark of how you should use music in a series. But The Magicians, I think, do a really interesting job of incorporating music into this 4th season. Nice. So I think it's definitely worth watching if you started The Magicians and you're like, what's happening? What's fillery? I'm trying to think of something else I've been watching. And You're the Worst. I love that show.
Oh, it started again.
No, the last season is on Hulu right now.
Okay, that's what I mean. It's available again.
How many episodes or seasons are you into it, Tessa?
I am in the 4th season, the last season. I have 2 episodes left.
It gets really dark.
Shit was always dark.
I know, but it's more lighthearted in the beginning.
Does it really get dark?
I thought it got really dark.
Because I've only seen the first 2 seasons.
It gets dark at the end of season 2 when you first find out about her history.
The whole cat food thing and that guy. And I'm like, oh my.
Oh shit, maybe I only saw season 1. How did season 1 end? I don't know.
They are getting... No, they're not engaged. I think they just officially say that they're together. At the end of season 2, they are getting engaged.
You're the Worst. Oh my God, I'm thinking of the other really, really funny sitcom, like I'm the Worst or I'm Sorry.
Oh, I'm Sorry. I love that show.
I thought that's what you're
rewatch
saying.
that often.
You're the Worst.
You're the Worst. Yeah.
You
would like it. Yeah,
okay.
You would like it. It's funny, but it's about depression and fucked up people being the worst. I think FX is underrated for its fucking content.
FX is great.
I've become re-emerged in FX, and I'm like, you guys kill it.
Did you see Casual?
No,
that's really good, and it's on FX, I think.
Yeah,
it's in the same vein as You're the Worst.
I'm like, FX is fucking killing it.
Yeah.
And especially when you add in like Pose and American Horror Story, and like I mean,
it has a theme, and it seems like FX covered darker themes before like HBO picked up on a lot of stuff. I know HBO and Showtime always had different type of content, but FX had that kind of content on regular cable for a long time. I feel like they were always kind of pushing the limit. Yeah, okay, maybe I'll start You're the Worst. I always start it when you tell me things take a dark turn, then I'm like, you know what, I'll watch this. Same with Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, which, by the way, Zach has completely caught up on
Well,
and is
well,
now in season 4. He started watching it. He started watching it when him and I weren't seeing a lot of each other. Like I'd first started a new job, and he said he dropped me hints, but didn't tell me he was watching it. He'd like quote something. He's like, "You didn't even notice."
Well, you're just saying words. Put them into context.
Like a whole song and dance.
He said
And
something.
numbers. You didn't even know it.
He said something like, "Oh, who is Josh Chan's Valencia?" He said he made a comment like, "That's Valencia skinny" or something, and I didn't even hear him. I just didn't care. And now he's on. I know, and he texted me something like "smash your butterfly" or something, and I didn't know that was from it either. And I think I texted back, "What the fuck is that?" or "What's that from?" And so now we're both
I wouldn't have
watching
gotten that
season
one either.
4.
Smash your butterfly.
Like you're
what?
picking, like,
No.
there's so much weird shit in that show. But, and then an easy watch. This is actually super addicting. You. Have you watched it at all, Tessa?
No, I haven't seen
Okay.
any of it, but I enjoy the memes very much.
I haven't seen the memes.
Oh, yes.
They're very funny.
Very funny, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know what's happening, but I love seeing these. People are I love the internet because they're very clever, and I was like, I want to be on this joke.
On the joke.
Yeah.
Have you seen Gossip Girl?
I saw like the first season of Gossip Girl.
Okay, that's enough to know that. Well, that's enough. I mean, it's a great show, but that's enough to know that you'll recognize this character in you because it's pretty much Lonely Boy goes psycho. So Lonely Boy is the character in Gossip Girl that actor plays,
Oh.
and it's just an older version, and he's lost his damn mind. And it's the same acting, so it's not that great. But oh my God, is this not a fucking addictive show? I watched the entirety of season 2 in 1.5 sittings. What is that? 13 episodes. I mean, I had started to question my mental health. Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesomely bad. It's so good. It's magic. I can't wait for you to watch it because we are going to cover it on Strong Female Lead pretty soon, actually. Definitely sometime during January. So guys, start now because you need at least 2 days to watch season 1 and 2.
Or if you work in an office like me, all day, one day,
Ooh,
one work day.
I like that.
Yeah.
And then also, I'm going to see it. I don't know if I'll go to the theater. Maybe I'll just try to order it from the privacy of my own home. Bombshell, which I know you tell us your thoughts. I think your perspective is interesting.
I don't want to spend money on seeing Bombshell. I just don't agree with this depiction of these women as a part of the machine that is Fox News. Yeah, I fully recognize their victimhood with their situation with Roger Ailes, but it's hard for me to watch them both be praised as heroines for their journalism when I so fervently disagree with what they espouse on Fox News.
Got it. Okay. I understand that. I guess I just separate them from the news portion of Fox in this. Like I'm looking at it as the story about the females rather than the news that they're presenting. And that's just how I do it.
Yeah,
I read
for
the
me,
story differently.
it's hard to separate because like the news stories that they're reporting throughout, just watching the trailer, the news stories that they're reporting on, I don't think you can separate the character from the news that they're reporting on. Their perspective on the news and the way that they espouse that information, I just can't. I'm having a hard time separating it.
I can respect that. Yeah, I definitely separate it. Just in terms of the story, and I'm always intrigued by the whole whistleblowing situation and how that goes about and the benefits as well as the negative parts of that type of experience and that type of choice. And I'm interested in it, but I know that it's definitely a dramatic depiction. I don't know how much is enhanced for Hollywood's sake and for just character development versus what these women are really like. And even the story itself, we'll see how many liberties are taken. But I think it's an interesting female empowerment story. But I don't know. I haven't even read any reviews on it yet. I just remember seeing the trailers. I don't know if it was just released. We'll have to find out.
Yeah. I mean, I trust these actors and this team of writers and directors to have done their research, which kind of, for me, like, even more empowers me to say no. For me, I don't need to spend money on this story to empathize with them as women who are victims of workplace harassment. And I do fully empathize with their situation, but also I can't. I mean,
You don't
I
want
would
to pay Fox?
I don't want to.
things about Fox?
Yeah, I don't want to in any way support.
FOX. News.
No, I don't. I mean, it's not even. Yeah, I think that when you tie your news network so closely with a political party, I would have the same if this was the Rachel Maddow story somehow, or like what is the guy with the button on his desk to like Matt Lauer? I'd be like, I don't think I could.
Button on his desk, I know.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, I would have the same like problem, and I was like, yeah, I'm interested. No, I like Rachel, but she didn't have a scandal, so I moved away from her. I was like, I love Rachel Maddow, but
Yeah.
the same thing. Like if she, I don't want to use her as an example. I want to strike her from the record. Like what's somebody with an actual scandal? Like if the same movie can be made about NBC News, so I feel like people are being a little disingenuous in saying that like, oh, Fox News is the problem. I was like, it's men. Without limitations
everything.
to their power, without being checked, who are doing horrible things to people in the workplace.
Is
not
anyone saying that
exclusively
Fox
women.
News is the only problem? I
think it's the way it's reported, and this could just because it's liberal-leaning news sources reporting on Fox News, but it always comes across as though the same things or similar things aren't happening. And like CBS did the same thing with Les Moonves. I was like, this could be the Les Moonves story. So I was like, what are we really gaining here? I mean, Fox was just the first one to get their movie out. I mean,
yeah, and unfortunately, but I think they my guess is they leaned on Megyn Kelly being a divisive figure and making sure, I don't know, thought maybe it would generate more interest or the specific women involved. I don't know. Whatever.
I think
the reason
that it's
was.
like liberal catnip. We just want to be mad. Not that they're not wrong, but we just want to be mad, and we want the camaraderie that comes along with being able to say it's them. They're wrong, even if they are wrong. But I'm like, we can't deny that there's something else going on. And I don't like that. And it's probably also why I didn't like this movie that we watched today. I really didn't like it.
Yeah. On that note, guys, the movie for today is The Laundromat. And it's starring Meryl Streep, Gary Oldman, a very Schwimmer, David Schwimmer, Antonio
I was surprised to see
Banderas.
him. I was like, Schwimmer.
I know. Where have you been and why is it here?
Dude, I know he does like plays. He did a play in Chicago that I really wanted to see that got really great reviews. So that's where he's been here.
Oh, shit.
He's big. He does a lot of theater.
And we had a little Sharon Stone action.
Which made no sense.
Came
I was
in
like,
fierce as fuck, but
I was like, how
why?
old are you? Are you aging?
Yeah, I know. There's like a 30-year span. I can't tell how old she is.
No, not at all. And I was like,
She
I
looks
like
exactly
did a double
the same.
take, and I was like, what?
She's not aging. She looks exactly the same.
Is it an Illuminati thing?
Yeah.
I believe it.
That and a facelift thing is probably. So those are the stars. Did I say Antonio Banderas, who I loved in it? I love him. He's so cute.
He's very cute.
He's so cute. And it is, let's see, directed by Steven Soderbergh and cinematography, Steven Soderbergh, edited by Steven Soderbergh. And so it came out, it was released September 1st. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it was released at the Venice Film Festival first on September 1st, 2019. But then it was released theatrically on September 27th, 2019. And then it was released for digital streaming by Netflix on October 18th, 2019. So we've talked a little bit about this workaround for films and what they're doing. And it's smart, I think, but really what they're doing, they're just releasing it in theaters so that they can be eligible for during awards season, but then putting it on Netflix, which
because
is
they
where
know
they'll
they're
get
not
more
going.
views.
I mean, they know they're not going to make the box office dollars that they would need to recoup the
No way.
cost of making a film like this.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just assuming that because it's all biased from this point. Sorry, guys.
There's going to be some hate spewed. But it's an American biographical comedy drama. And it's based on the Panama Papers scandal. So the Panama Papers scandal, that is something, so that, let's see, when did that was in 2016. I think that those documents were leaked. And there were approximately 11.5 million leaked documents that detailed financial and attorney-client information from more than 214,000 offshore entities. And so some of the documents dated back to the 70s. And basically the documents detailed personal financial information about the wealthy elite and public officials that had previously been kept private. So basically, I mean, I have limited financial knowledge, but you can probably speak more to this, but I think that it just has to do with tax avoidance rather than tax evasion. So tax avoidance, which is technically legal, and people, wealthy individuals putting their money in shell companies that only exist on paper and that are incorporated in states or countries that are considered tax havens. So they don't have to, there's very limited or no tax liability. Maybe state tax liability is what they're getting away from typically. I doubt it would be necessarily federal. But I don't know. I mean, if it's offshore in a different country, then, and I know Switzerland is a country that's considered a tax haven, and so they just hold on to these accounts and don't really monitor them. So then you end up not losing your money to taxes and, in essence, getting more and more money. Is that kind of what that is? Did I describe it okay?
Yeah.
Just a way for the wealthy to not have to pay taxes. Right. And it's legal, but it can go into areas that are illegal. And then also it's just morally dubious in certain points, but people do get away with it to an extent because of the letter of the law. Yeah.
I didn't like this. I felt like I was like looking at the fact that this isn't like directly like your description that you found says that this is a documentary or a drama-ementary.
It's like in the beginning, there was a caption that was part of the movie that said this is a sneaky documentary. So it was supposed to be funny. So it was supposed to basically bring us in as if this is just a story. And really, they were telling us about public corruption and how the wealthy are, in essence, killing us all and not paying their taxes, which would then help us live.
I think that's
a better
somewhat
life in
unfair
America.
Because, like, even like looking at the facts that they like put on the screen, it's this was very biased, and I was I felt like I was like, this is what people mean when they say that we live in a bubble. Because I was like, we're seeing like this is not. I just wish we had all the information. I hate this movie because, well, for a lot of reasons, but like I just wish that they had expounded more of the information. Like this wasn't just biased. Politicians and like world leaders with their money in shell corporations and offshore. Like how many small business owners open businesses in like Delaware in order to avoid certain taxes? I was like, it's not just them.
Soderbergh included.
Exactly. Every actor on that set has these same things. So I'm like, we're like shaming. People who like outright do it for business and then praising the people on the screen for telling us about what they do in their personal lives. Like, what? That sounds like, that sounds crazy to me. And I just do not like this sneaky documentary. I hope this is not the future of what I'm going to call liberal filmmaking with such an obvious political agenda. I absolutely hated this. Like, I could not feel more strongly about how much I disliked this being, like, this type of information being disguised as a film. I was like, when I first watched it, as I am right now, I'm both speechless and angry. I just fervently dislike this movie.
Have you not? So do you feel that way
And
about
fervently
all
agree with the
documentaries?
content.
Like documentaries like this? Because there's tons of liberal
I would
biased
never
documentaries slash movies.
But that's a
like
documentary that I'm going into viewing as a
This.
documentary.
Sorry, Too Big to Fail. That's an example of one
I would
that's not a
never
documentary.
view that movie going into it thinking that it's like a film. This is
Okay.
telling me the story of the life of characters who have been screwed over or
I thought
somehow
it was going
work
to be
into.
about Ellen Martin.
Yeah, as the Netflix description tells you, it's a story about a woman whose idyllic vacation takes a tragic turn, and then her
Pleasure boat.
Yeah, it's supposed to be, well, it's billed as the story of her finding out about the systems that have screwed her over after the tragic death of her husband. That's the story I thought I was getting.
Yeah.
I didn't know how the rest of these characters were going to play
I thought
it.
it was going to be an Aaron Brockovich kind of
Yeah.
like takedown.
Exactly. And I'm
at
like, that's
first.
to me like an acceptable way to espouse that type of information. I think like this movie and also Marriage Story, and I just
Has this been a rough couple
this has been a
weeks
rough
for you?
2020. Like I'm like, what's happening in film right now? I was like, I think I need to go see Little Women just to like get a story.
Well, don't see Cats.
Oh,
for a
I wanna see
story.
Cats.
But for a story?
Oh, well, it's not, yeah, Cats. I was like, isn't it, it's not even like a continuous story. Like I think they have to write the through lines between.
I don't even know what it's about. I've heard it's just about cats. Yeah, I just said that because the joke I've always heard is there is no story.
Yeah, that's what yeah. Okay. I was like, I think they had to write a story in order to make this movie because the story of Cats is like 5 or 6 individual like
Cats.
standalone like
Vignettes about cats.
yes. And I was like, I don't okay.
So
Let's go beat by beat because this is a short movie. There's not a lot happening. There's like 3
God.
main
Okay.
vignettes,
sure.
short stories, and then the wider stories of the release of the Panama Papers, which we get from the narrators,
Yeah.
expositors of exposition, Antonio Banderas and Gary Oldman. So it starts out with the two of them taking a walk about a desert, which I was already like, oh God, what's happening to my face? It's
loved
tears.
their banter. So my feelings were a little different. I understand that it's biased, 100%, and you shouldn't get the information if you really want to know about all of this and what occurred. It shouldn't just be from this movie.
I just hate the sneakiness. Don't tell me. Don't with one hand tell me this is
I don't care
a
about the
story,
sneakiness.
and then show me a documentary. And I was like, fuck you.
But it was never. It's not a documentary. It was never claiming to truly be a documentary. It's not. It can't be.
Why can't it be?
Because it's not. It's
There's actor depictions in most documentaries.
No, but this isn't. But the story about Ellen Martin and her being the spy or going into the agency and working for them is totally made up. So they admit to making up the stories. It's a dramatization, and then they fictionalized it. So
I don't think that those were supposed to be the same person. Like Ellen, like Meryl Streep's character at the beginning as Ellen, and the when she's playing the Latin woman, those are 2 separate characters. Like she's not in disguise.
No, she is in disguise. That's the fictionalized part of it, is that she went in and she figured it out. It's all made up.
No, I don't think.
Really?
No,
Because that's what I read. Huh. Okay.
Well, at least
gotta
that's
look
not
it up.
that's not what I gathered. Hillary's agreeing with me over on the couch.
Yeah, that's what-
But I was like, those are separate people because like, why wouldn't you show that transition of her like learning Spanish, flying to Panama when they did do that when they went to Neves or Neves.
She had a
Neves.
phone conversation with Meryl Streep on the phone. Meryl Streep kept calling the office saying, I need to talk to this person, the head of the company. I need to talk to him. And that woman's on the phone. She's like, oh, sure. No. She was railroading her.
Good.
It was
good
just
point.
turning it on its head at the end. And
Then
Meryl
I.
Streep was like,
Okay. Weird.
She was
Then-
obviously
okay.
playing the same character. Like
Yeah,
it was the
well,
same woman playing the same character.
I didn't pick up on that.
Oh yeah, I thought the makeup was kind of bad. I was like,
I didn't realize till the end, and that was a review I read. So maybe I could definitely be wrong, but I read that was just a fictionalized part of it. But now that you bring up that she was talking to herself, that might have been an issue. that might.
It's a little wrench in there.
yeah.
I don't know. Now because I'm crazy, I have to look it up and figure it out. But they admit. I mean, it's a drama.
Yeah, I don't think that this is based at. I don't think that
Yeah.
the short stories were based depicting actual events. I think they could have been based on
They were
true
loosely
stories,
based,
but
yeah.
still.
It says the documentary thing. I think it's a joke in the beginning.
Then
saying
it should have been a joke with the facts then. Like, you should have just, like, completely satirized the entire experience of the Panama Papers to me. To me, it's still presenting the information. Like, they're still espousing factual data about how the Panama Papers were released and how the tax system benefits the ultra wealthy, not just in the United States, but on a global scale. That's all real. And I'm like, I don't like this. I was like, I think I was just like, where is the satire? Where, I don't know, where is the lightness? Where is the joy from this? Or like, what was I supposed to feel at the end of this? Like, I think that's something I go into movies in 2020, like, looking for. Like, how is this supposed to make me feel? How does this make the viewer feel?
You to hate corruption. That's what they're trying to make you feel.
But did you walk away hating corruption?
I didn't walk away as impacted as you did. I walked away thinking that this was a typical left. Yeah, but like that's just how I approach these, though. It doesn't mean I'm not the typical audience member with this. Like I don't mind when it's disguised. I know there's an agenda, and I had heard of the Panama Papers, and I knew loosely what it was about, and I just figured it was a liberal-leaning, agenda-driven dramatization, fictionalization of a story, just like the ones that were about Wall Street. So I don't know. I mean, I didn't feel like I know that this stuff happens. So I just know it happens. It sucks. I mean, the story, the Ellen Martin story, I think that was, there was a pleasure boat, and it was at Lake George, and it capsized on Lake George, and people died. And so that part is true, and that makes me very, very sad. And then they weren't able to get insurance payouts because it was a sham insurance company that was handled by the lead characters, who are also real, Mossack and Fonseca, and they're actually awaiting trial and then filed a lawsuit for defamation.
As they should.
For this movie. And then it was dismissed, I'm pretty sure.
That's shocking.
Yeah, I think it was already dismissed by the court as freedom of, Soderbergh's defense was freedom of speech, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but if it's definitely, I mean... Oh, I guess you have to prove that it's untrue. And if they're still awaiting trial for their previous many, many crimes, it's hard to prove that it's not true without also giving up your defense.
Right. And also it explains a little bit why this was presented the way that it was. Because obviously, like films, and production companies have attorneys working for them. And so they want to make sure that they're safe in the depiction.
Mm-hmm. Which is just hilarious that Netflix...
But they just use their real names, which is a very funny piece of it, though. It's like, okay, this is a fictionalization, but they use the parts that are publicly known as truths, that they owned this company. They played around with it. It was very odd how it... I don't know. I'm surprised they didn't get in a little more trouble, but also not surprised at all. So I don't know.
Oh. And I'm like, this is just how...
Well, if you want to go beat by beat, you want to start with the stories?
Yeah, let's talk about Ellen.
Ellen, pleasure boat, husband dies.
Yeah.
That's where we meet Ross. And she she tries to get compensation from the boating company after her husband Joe dies, but she cannot because this just reminds me of my student loans. The reinsurance company that the boat company's owner and son Matthew bought their policy from was sold to another company based out of Nevis. And the Nevis-based company is actually a trust of one of the shell companies that is constructed by Mossack and Fonseca and is under investigation by the IRS. So she tries to contact Mossack and the Nevis-based company, but she's unsuccessful, so she goes to Nevis.
Yeah.
To confront Boncamper, the manager of the trust. And he's quickly caught and arrested by the IRS agents. That was a pivotal moment, and no one typically ever travels to go and find out that information, but for her to just see the address of the post office and nothing more just made me sad. I was like, oh.
I've had a hard time connecting to this.
Her.
Well, in the sequence of events, like she also attempts to buy a condo in in Vegas in order to look out at the spot where her and her husband met. And I was like, again, I'm like,
That made no sense
this
to
is
me. What was
very
the point of that?
rushed.
Yeah, what was the point of that?
I was like, this is
didn't
very
get that.
rushed. Like, and I was like, even an actor as great as Meryl Streep can't. I would be shocked if anyone's like, I was emotionally, unless this has directly happened to you, I was connected to these characters. I cared about, or I felt I was impacted by her portrayal of a woman who's lost, like a widowed woman. And I was
wasn't
like,
connected.
No, because it was like 15 minutes to get to know her in the story, and then it doesn't come
Barely
back.
saw her and her husband together, and their morning together was just a typical like meh, 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 meh.
Yeah, and I was
back
like,
and
the
forth.
whole time, like her makeup, like just looks like she had been crying. And I was like, I feel bad. I feel bad for her as someone who's like lost the spouse. 40 years of marriage, that's not nothing. But I was shocked that we never came back to her, and I'm shocked that she wasn't the yes, she was the lead, but like that her story ended like 45 minutes in, and I was like, so we're just never going to talk about her again.
Yeah.
How does this connect to the other stories? Like, it felt like this was a like a clip show, or like,
Yeah, I think very much like the Marriage Story.
I felt like if
There
this was a
wasn't ton of
series, if this was
development of the characters.
yeah, I felt like if this was a series, maybe I could watch this. If it's just like we're driving the point home that there's problems with the U.S. And I also wish that they would have picked a focus. Like, I think that you probably lost a lot of people when you're like, well, this is happening in Panama. How does this directly affect me in the United States? And what changes are you requesting that we make? And you can like, I love someone who made this point. Like, you can voluntarily pay more taxes if you feel guilty about having your money, Steven Soderbergh,
but no
in
one would
these
do that.
shell companies. You can just go ahead and pay more money. And I'm sure he gives a charity, but I'm like, I always thought it was a funny take on taxes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not feeling it.
Not
so
feeling it.
they're just yeah, I mean
Performance-wise, I thought, Meryl Streep just being Meryl Streep.
there wasn't a lot to connect to. And I think these kind of movies are tough because if you're going to be a fictionalization of a real situation, and then you're also going to throw in 3 separate stories, that's a difficult
And the
feat.
stories of the narrators. And I was like, why are you telling me this? Let me hate these people. Let me think these are the bad guys. But then you're like, oh, well, they're people too. They came from humble beginnings. And
Oh, I never felt for
What?
them though. Yeah, I guess I didn't.
why?
connect to
They're the
any of them.
same people. Like, it's like, that's your child. Like these high-powered bankers are actually your children who you're sending to good schools in order to get jobs, in order to become bankers. And I'm like, why are we now they're the villain? Because they did exactly what, like, what quote-unquote society is telling them to do, to make more money, to go and get a
Well,
job.
yeah, they
and, like,
didn't see themselves as the villains.
no. And I'm like, I was very confused on the message. They're like, I think for me, it came down to like, oh, we're all people just trying to get by. And I was like, well, is that worth saying?
I
I'm
don't
trying
know.
to not come at this with, I'm going to take a different tack. I'm going to decide that I like this movie. And now I'm going to defend it.
I don't know what's happening on the other side of the table.
I mean, I just don't have anything else to say. So I'm just going to just go ahead and change my tack.
I mean, Hillary picked this. Can we?
I'm not,
let's bring Hillary up here.
no, I mean,
I think it was a tall order.
I think this is the hard part about choosing a documentary, what is essentially a documentary. Yes, there is a fictionalized account of what's happening, but I'm like, I feel like you lack a lot in the story when you're only getting it from, when you're presenting all of these sides, I choose none.
Well, yeah, like I said, it's a tall order to fit all of this into 90 minutes or whatever they're doing. And I don't think they were going to be able to. I think it would have been more palatable if they chose one of the stories or they made it purely a fictionalization, but the narration plus 3 stories plus an attempt to have a documentary leaning. It was a lot. I don't know if anyone was going to be able to do it. I thought it was totally enjoyable, but once I knew what was going on, then I was like, oh, okay, well, then this is just going to be a fun way to teach an audience enough about a situation that they might go and learn about it on their own, to kind of take it with a grain of salt, as I typically do with any of those.
Yeah, I think a better way to do this would be if you've seen the movie Stranger Than Fiction, where there's a narrator. It's Will Ferrell, and he's like wearing a clock, and the clock the watch saves his life, and he's like all of a sudden got this narrator in his head. But like if the narrator character, again, following this one storyline and telling you how the system is screwing over one person, and then that person would eventually need to meet the narrator. Like I think that could have worked better. Yeah, if you've seen Stranger Than Fiction, then you know what I love that as a screenplay, as a movie. But I'm like,
I don't think I've ever seen it.
It's great. It's on Amazon Prime, I think.
Nice.
But yeah, Will Ferrell, serious role. Maggie Gyllenhaal. Nailed it.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's just really
I like Maggie Gyllenhaal. Have
Yeah.
you ever seen The Secretary?
Yeah,
How good was that? Did you like it?
it was okay.
Oh my God, I loved it.
Yeah.
But I was in college when I saw it. It was a long time ago. Oh my God, it's great. Well, okay, so then the second story. This one, they gave us 0 time to connect with, even less time, I think. The story about the African billionaire, Charles, and he's having an affair with his daughter's best friend. I was like, okay. So then in order to pay her off so that he can continue the affair, he offers his shares, he offers her shares of one of his investment companies, which is one of the shell companies, and they turn out to be worthless because they only exist on paper. So then we see
I thought
her.
he pulled it. I thought he pulled it to fuck him over.
He did. He moved the money.
Yeah. I think they existed. He just fucked it.
Yeah, when he gave her the money, it was worth when he gave her the bearer bonds or whatever it was. I think it was bearer bonds. It was worth $20 million.
And then it was worth
and
like
then it's
$75 or something.
yeah.
Yeah, that's just Wikipedia. He probably, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, he might have just pulled it. Listen, guys, this is Wiki. Someone wrote this. Who wrote it? I don't know.
Let me fix it.
Yeah, you should go in.
Yeah.
You should go in and fix that. Yeah, so they find out how much it was. And I'm sure, yeah. Well, I guess it turns out to be worth it. Yeah, I mean, fuck. So that one I didn't fully connect with. And
This
then the
one-
third story.
Yeah, that story particularly made me like, I was like, at the end of that, through the first story, I was on board. I was like, I don't like this, but at least I'm like, it's Meryl Streep. The acting is good. I mean, it's just because I'm not connecting with this character doesn't mean that she's not well written and even better acted. This story, I was just mad at as a depiction of women on screen. And I was like, not only is
bad.
like everyone in this story is morally bankrupt, aside from the wife. She had something to her. And I'm like, being morally bankrupt isn't like disqualifying for you from being an SFL. But I was like, at least give them a little bit more depth than like she's a spoiled rich soon-to-be post-grad who catches her father having an affair with her best friend and roommate and then is offered $20 million for her silence. And I was like, this feels like it's just reeks of like the male gaze, that like we're not giving her any time or any introspective into her considering what her father is asking her. And I was like, I would have just appreciated a couple beats where she's just like more angry than she was portraying, like in The Office before the lawyer shows up. And I was like, it made rich people feel very transactional, as if they don't have emotions, everything to the ultra rich. And this could be true. I only know like very few people of the 1%, the true 1%, that their lives are just transactional and that everyone could be bought and replaced. And I was like, I don't know that I believe that that's true of most people, especially like, this is your daughter. Like that was like very cold and callous to me. And I was like, and then he brings up the fact that he's already done this once to the mom before. I wish Divorce Story had fit into this slot. Where, yeah, because his big fear is that like she's gonna take everything and screw him over because he cheated. I was like, this seems like the space where marriage. This should, in my opinion, like this could have been the story of the mom getting back at the father for cheating. Like, and not only is he now divorcing her, but he's now hiding the money, and she and her divorce attorneys are trying to get to these offshore accounts where he's moving money around in order to get what's respectfully hers after, time served under or in a marriage.
And we're back with the third story. So the third story that's woven into it is a dramatization of part of the Wang Lejeune incident. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but specifically the death of Neil Haywood, who's renamed as Maywood in the film. And he's an intermediary for wealthy Chinese looking to funnel money abroad. So he visits a hotel to meet... Oh, God. Gu Kilai? I'm sorry. My apologies for tearing apart these names. But he demands and pressures her for a much higher price if she wants him to continue laundering money through a shell company that Mossack owns. And then she responds by poisoning his drinks, cold as ice. The way that it happened was kind of amazing. And she's like, you need to sleep? You just need to sleep, don't you? And then he dies. And she discloses the incident and reports Maywood to a party official who secretly records the conversation and then reports her. And it ends with her arrest and the arrest of her husband for murder and corruption. Go.
I got nothing. As a standalone film, I think that could be very interesting to for people to get a better look at how money laundering works, especially like in Asia, and if a similar story was told about how Russian oligarchs get their money, and how they do that usually is through real estate purchases. It's especially big sums of money. I think they bought like a French chateau or something in the south of France. So I'm assuming it's a chateau.
Yes.
But yeah, just how money laundering goes. And I feel very misled by this, and I think that's fueling my resentment towards this movie, because I was like, there's so many good stories in this that were just, why don't we put them together like this? Why, like, this could have been a series of films, like blockbuster films that are just about like corruption and investigating corruption. This could have been like a Sherlock type thing where we have a lead protagonist who's like insane, but he's doing the right thing for the wrong reasons. And like, why would you give me 15 minutes of a story that
I know that one was super short.
Yeah.
I liked that one.
And who doesn't divorce their wife for like millions of dollars? I would be offended if my husband didn't divorce me. Andrew, would you divorce Hillary? If somebody was threatening you and saying you need to divorce Hillary in order to show loyalty to this like political party, would you do it?
How much?
25 million.
I mean,
Right?
Like, we'll come back. Like, I'll get her. I got 25 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I'll come back for you, baby.
Exactly.
I'll come
I
back.
would be livid if I would be livid if my husband didn't do that for me. How dare you not do that for me? I would divorce you in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat.
Nola agrees. It's good for everybody. It's a good decision for everybody.
Yes. I was like, what kind of ridiculous is what? Divorce her.
Yeah, well,
She doesn't even have to move out. Who's going to prove it? Like,
because his morals, he felt morally tied to that marriage.
that's ridiculous. Marriage is a relationship between people in the state. So,
And also the fact that morals aren't really a big thing in this corruption. So why are you going to pick and choose?
Yeah.
It's a big case of cherry picking. But, well, shit, that's it. And the film ends with the leaking of the papers and subsequent police raids on the firm that is run by Gary Oldman and Antonio Banderas, who really seem like they have a little best buddy, friends forever.
yeah, a nice
BFF.
little bromance when you discover that the law doesn't pay working for the little guy.
Right.
You go ahead and you work for big business.
And you work for big business.
Yeah.
And,
Which is no shade. Like, if you've got that job, I'm not that mad. I mean, I'm mad, but I'm more mad at like politicians than businesses. I feel like it's like wagging your finger at, if the law is going to let them do it, how am I that mad for them doing it? I'm mad, but.
Well, I mean, yeah, the law allows for that, but I think that you can still do things that hurt people even if the law allows for it. So
But if the law isn't set up to like have a punishment or some rectifying action, what is to prohibit someone from doing it? Are they acting immorally if there's nothing saying that that's not a moral action? Are we mad at them because we're viewing like
really
shell
agree
corporations as a immoral, like hiding? Tax avoidance is a morally bad issue.
I think
Again, this movie leaves me more confused because it was like, if you had
I think
one
morals
character
are
who
not
was like,
So if you're more mad at the politicians and not these people are buying the politicians.
yeah,
That's a reason to be mad. because they are avoiding taxes by using this money to pay politicians so they don't have to pay the taxes. So they are just as bad as the politicians. They are doing something that they can do that no one else can do. And that's fucked up.
The whole thing is fucked up, but I'm more mad at people who've run for political office.
But they're running for political office because they're backed by a lot of these people. So
I don't think that's why you should get into, like, I think that's how you run your campaign, but I'm like, why you're getting into politics? It seems like there's a new breed of well, not a new breed, it's just a breed of politician who is always in it for money and access, which I'm like, what the fuck?
I mean, I think it's all morally bankrupt. I don't think that because something doesn't have a law prohibiting it, that it's an okay thing to do.
I'm not, not
like,
saying it's okay to
there's
do
lots
this,
of laws
but I think that
protects certain actions like, oh my God, like diplomatic immunity. I mean, if you're a diplomat, you can basically just kill someone and have automatic immunity. Does it mean it's okay for them to do it? Because they can and they have, so I think that there's a gray area, and I think that the laws are the way that they are a lot of times because the amount of time it takes to have a law be put on the books, but also on purpose so that there is moral gray areas for people to operate in that continue so that we can also, and this goes back to like 1984 type shit, but basically so that we can continue to have a higher class, a middle class, and a low class, because I think that actually, in a way, keeps society going as it does and is almost necessary. And not that I agree with that, but I think it all kind of goes into the same thing, keeping powerful people powerful, keeping people who aren't powerful, keeping them below, like keeping them with an inability to have the same access and stuff. But yeah, I think they're all around shitty, but if you can get away with it, and the laws allow for you to, they do to an extent, but eventually there's a great chance to cross over into something that is illegal, because the reason that they were arrested is a lot of the people that they had developed those shell corporations for were connected to criminals. So then they end up becoming a part of that crime,
Yes. I think I personally put the moral weight with elected officials to make the changes that they've run on, even though I know that a lot of them are lying a lot of the time. But I'm like, if this is something that you're running on and something that is meaningful to your constituents and you're choosing moneyed interests over it, that is to me a bigger problem than having a moneyed interest, because those exist. And that's something that I can take care of. I cannot patronize a business that I know, isn't like, I was going to say Apple, but I mean, that's, ugh. But then again, that's the gray area. Like, I feel like I need these Apple products that I have, but I know because of reasons that Apple does a similar thing and a lot of these big corporations, but that's an individual's choice. If I stopped canceling these companies for doing these practices that we feel are lacking moral, like if Amazon came to your state and that Amazon pays $0 in taxes and you are like lobbying your local politicians to be like, hey, we want Amazon to be paying state taxes. Like, if they're going to build a factory here, they need to pay state taxes. What do I do as an individual? I stop patronizing Amazon if they're coming to my state and they're not paying taxes. I can go to Walmart. It's not better, but I can go to other places in order to
I guess I don't understand the argument. Like, I'm just wondering, like, I think that businesses can be just as wrong as politicians, but I hear you saying something about, like, the individual responsibility that you can.
Well, I think if you're taking on an elected office, you're signing up to be a representative of me to the United States Congress, who is creating tax laws. And so if you're not representing my interests, that to me is more that is more important to me than a business that I have no connection to. That is more abstract. I don't know Tim Cook. I can't be like, hey, Tim, I realize that you've put a lot of money in banks overseas. Could you maybe pay more in taxes, or Bill Gates, or
Hey, buddy.
yeah. But I can say like Dick Durbin, or well, he's a senator.
There's more power.
But like
There's more or perceived power, more perceived connection to the elected officials. But it just reminds me of like the whole Uber settlement recently with the EEOC regarding sexual harassment and the treatment of women. And they settled, and the settlement, I think, is actually pretty decent. They have a fund of like $4 million that is going to go towards a lot of the victims of the harassment, but also they're going to be basically reviewed and monitored for a period of time by an outside party. And they're also implementing different trainings, etc. But funny you bring that up, because you didn't bring Uber up, but bring up the idea of business. Is I was in the car with a Lyft driver, and he said the reason he chose to drive with Lyft was because of Uber. He wouldn't work for Uber because of the reputation they had and all of the allegations that had been brought forth. I mean, shit, I don't know. People are shitty everywhere. I mean, people are shitty just walking down the street. Everyone's shitty. I guess who makes you the angriest? Maybe for you, it's Soderbergh.
not Soderbergh. I love Ocean's 11.
For making this movie. That's what I was.
Well, I think for me, this movie was like, and no shade to him as a director, but I feel like this movie was directionless. I feel like the point of a documentary is to inspire action. And when you hide that in all of these stories and very thinly veiled sketches, you lose some of that like call to action. Because I just saw 3 stories. I don't need to do anything, because I guess Soderbergh told me that he has these accounts, and therefore he's doing something about the accounts that he has, that he never said he was going to do anything about having. But it's a problem for some of us, but not him, because he's somehow exempt, because he's made a movie about it and told us. It's like, what? What am I supposed to do with this?
I don't know exactly about.
And I suppose the answer is nothing, and I should be okay with that, but I'm not, because I didn't sign up to watch a documentary.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know enough about his accounts and
well, just like, why throw that in at the end?
I mean,
5 of us working on this film have these offshore accounts or shell accounts, and I was like, a lot of people do. A lot of people own small businesses.
Yeah,
and
but
throwing
I don't know
yourself
enough
in as a
about
good guy, and I was like,
I don't know enough about it. All I pulled from that was what they said is that they had business open in Delaware that doesn't have to be taxed. But I don't know anything else about it, or what the money is funneled to, or who is benefiting other than him. I think the whole point was that criminals were benefiting from these particular lawyers, and they chose to work with certain people.
But then why speak about himself at all if he's just throwing his name in with, in the same...
I don't know. Let's call him up.
I'm just like,
dial him up here?
I don't think that these like writers and directors of this caliber have superfluous words in scripts. Are speaking chewing scenery or eating time of. This is deliberate in some way, and I'm curious what he was going for.
I think we should reach out to him on the social media.
Well, I think we should reach out to the screenwriter, who's not David Soderbergh. And I'm not trying to burn any connections in Hollywood. We might need them for real one day.
That's basically it. I mean, what about a strong female lead? Any strong female leads in this movie? So our definition of strong female lead for purposes of the podcast is the actress must be top billed, have agency, and move the plot along. So the character of Ellen Martin.
No?
And taking out, it's kind of an interesting plot to consider with it.
Was there a plot?
She's top billed. I'm just going to ignore that. She's top billed. She's agency. She does move the plot along in the sense.
Plot, if you could describe it, because I might have missed it.
You are so sassy on the other side of that of the table. So to me, the plot was just the scam that these attorneys were helping build shell companies for bad actors, let's say, people who are connected to crimes, and how everyday people and also different people like the man in Africa, and then as well as the Chinese leaders, how it impacts different people in different social areas of the social spectrum, I guess, or in different socioeconomic situations. And I mean, it's hard to pick a strong female lead because the characters aren't fully developed and we don't really see that much of an arc with them. So it really is kind of like it's a short story. And would that be considered a strong female lead in this story? I mean, it's like, would you think the mother of the daughter in the second vignette, would she be a strong female lead? Or the wife in the third one? I mean, are they...
The unseen wife of the British man?
No, the wife who...
Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah, the one who kills the dude.
Oh, I was like, what? How could she be an SFL? I mean, I guess she is as much as the other ones. She moved the plot.
I mean, that's the thing, though.
Her love caused her husband's death.
Whether you like them or hate them, they actually, I think, in a sense, at least in my opinion, for purposes of our definition, they're strong female leads. Or at least Meryl Streep is. Even though it's not fully developed and I don't really connect to her. I'll agree with you on that. But she is top billed. She has her own agency and she does impact the plot.
I disagree. I don't think there's an SFL in this movie. I think there are female characters. Mm-hmm. Well, I know there are female characters. But unfortunately for Meryl Streep's character, she doesn't move the plot along.
Like the overall plot?
The overall plot. Like if I was to map this movie out, it's external factors. Like she is a part of the event that has spurred this, that eventually leads to these like bigwig bankers being taken down. But I'm like, it's not her action. Her inquiring after, like, if anything, like Ross is the strongest female lead. He's the only one working with the FBI. In order to get this ball moving. Like it's him who's contacted the FBI, who got the guy in Neves, who from Neves it goes to Panama, and then from Panama we take down this company. So Ross is the
strong male
of the film. Nothing like, I just can't see any direct action that Meryl Streep's character is taking affecting the overall plot.
I would agree. Now looking back, I want to change my answer. I do think she has her own agency and she's top billed, but I keep thinking of her as the anonymous informant. Oh. And I forget. That's
an interesting character, though. Like Meryl Streep's other character, is she a strong female lead?
Not top billed.
Well, it's Meryl Streep. She's top billed.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
This is all confusing.
God, I have no idea who these people are.
Ellen, from the first one is, for me, not a strong female lead.
She doesn't impact the plot, but is the secretary.
I don't even think they give her a name. Well, I'm sure they did in the script, but did they ever say it? Mystery.
Actually, that would be the strong female lead. She's barely in it, but she's the one who, according to this part of the story, is the informant. Mm-hmm. Although we don't know. I don't know if the person is still anonymous, but they were when they leaked the papers.
Ever reveal your identity or take any. Why would you ever reveal that was you?
There's no positive.
Yeah, that would be something I would take to the grave.
I would be scared for my life, actually.
100%.
But yeah, actually, I think that character is the only strong female lead, and I don't know her name. I guess I didn't think of her as a lead because it is Meryl Streep. She's top billed, but the character is such a small supporting character. Mm-hmm. But I think that action-wise and intent-wise and impact on the plot, I guess that's the closest strong female supporting is Meryl.
Well, there's no lead because we have 3 stories.
Right. So, I mean, but we've had strong female leads that are small characters before. But yeah, it's tough to find one that's actually a lead. So maybe there isn't, I don't know. I mean, I think the closest one would be the woman in the office, the whistleblower. Mm-hmm. But that's it. So we want to end this because you look pained, and I would rather just finish the conversation, actually. So you guys can find us on Strong Female Pod on Instagram.
And we can also tweet at us if you also had very strong emotions towards this movie at SFL_Chicago on Twitter.
And you guys can definitely always recommend a movie or a TV show to us. And you can also leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts. We ask that you do it, please. It helps. We'll read it aloud. And make sure to tweet or Instagram Tessa specifically about your feelings about this movie. I'm sure she'd love to keep the conversation going.
Yeah, only at me if you liked it, because I'd really want it. Like, if you share my same perspective on how this was kind of a waste of time, but then I don't want to hear from you. But if you liked this and want to talk to me about why you liked it, I want to hear from you. You can at me at Evil Twin, or at Strong Female SFL __ Chicago on
It's
Twitter.
hard for us to remember that because we don't really use it. So what would you rate the movie to end?
I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 5.
Nice.
I think production wise, great.
It was flashy. It was it kept my attention.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah. I mean, I think the acting was good. I gave it 1 for acting and 1 for production.
Nice. Perfect. 2 whole points.
2 whole points.
I would give this, guess a 3 out of 5. I didn't think it was as bad as Tessa did. It wasn't amazing, but it was enjoyable. I think it's worth a watch. The Lady Liberty thing at the end.
Disagree.
I was like, whoa, Meryl, whoa.
Yeah. I feel like you just watched it from our description of it, so you could just save that 90 minutes and watch You that we're going to talk about next week. Just watch You. Just, we talked about the Laundromat. You watch You. And then we'll call it square.
And I'm interested to see what will happen if this wins anything and how Tessa
Is it even nominated for anything? That is a shock.
I don't think yet, but I'm just wondering how you'll be impacted personally and psychologically if this ends up being nominated for anything.
That would be like a slap in the face of every other person, every other team who's released a movie this year. This would be a slap in the face to be nominated for absolutely anything outside of a festival.
Well, okay, so that's it, guys. Until next time.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.